If you're new to developing for the Google Assistant, you have come to the right talk. And if you're an experienced assistant developer, don't worry, we're going to tell you what's new. Our mission for the Google Assistant is to be the best way to get things done. That is an ambitious mission. I think it sort of rhymes with organize the world's information and make it useful and accessible. And just like Google Search's mission from 20 years ago, our mission today for the Assistant requires a large and vibrant ecosystem of developers. And that's where all of you come in. So whether you're joining us here at the amphitheater at Shoreline, watching on the live stream or on YouTube later, this talk is going to tell you how you can make your experiences shine on the Google Assistant. If you're a content owner, this talk is going to tell you about schema.org markup and templates and how you can make your content look great on the Assistant. And if you're an Android developer, wait, I hear there's a few Android developers here today. Where are the Android developers? Where are you? Yes. Thank you. If you're an Android developer, this talk is going to tell you how you can use app actions to voice enable your Android apps. And if you're an innovator in this new generation of conversational computing, this talk is going to cover interactive canvas and conversational actions, how you can use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build rich, immersive actions for the Assistant. And if you're among the few, the proud, the hardware developers at I/O, any hardware developers? A couple? This talk is going to tell you about the new innovations in the Smart Home SDK. But before we do any of that, Naomi is going to tell us a little bit about why now is the right time for you to invest in the Google Assistant.
All right. So we're going to start by going back in time. I want you to think about when you first used the computer. For some of you, it was the 80s. Maybe you played a game or stored a receipt, or if it was the mid-80s, you even used a word processor. For others, it may have been the 90s. Games were a little bit better, and you navigated via the mouse instead of the command line. 10 years after computers entered our home, cell phones entered many of our hands. And by the mid to late 90s, communication was more portable than it had ever been before. But it was still very early. You remember the days when text messaging was a game of back and forth between the inbox and the sent folders. Yes, we've come a long way. Now, another 10 years later, in about 2007, the first smartphones entered the market, and then mobile computing exploded. So you may notice a trend here. About every 10 years or so, there's a fundamental shift in the way that we are computing, from desktop to mobile, and now to conversation. So what do these shifts mean for all of you as developers? Well, it means that you have a lot to think about, a lot to build on, and a whole lot to build with. And this is because each new wave is additive to the one that came before. We're still clicking, we're still typing, we're still tapping, and yes, now we're also talking. We're looking for more assistance in our daily lives, and we're turning to the devices around us to get things done. Now, Google's approach to this era of conversational computing is the Google Assistant. It's a conversation between the user and Google that helps them get things done. In addition to the Google Assistant, there are also assistant-enabled devices like Google Home, Android phones, and more. And finally, there's Actions on Google, which is our third-party platform. This enables developers to build their own experience on the Assistant. It's an entirely new way to engage with your users as they're using conversation to get their things done, and it was announced on this very stage just 3 years ago. Now, in just a few short years, we've seen an incredible evolution in terms of how users are talking to the Assistant, and this presents opportunities for developers across the globe. Now, think back to those first use cases on conversational platforms. They were very, very simple and straightforward. They were limited to things like turn on the music, turn on the lights, turn off the music, turn off the lights. Again, simple, straightforward commands that fulfilled users' very low and limited expectations. But there have been 3 incredible shifts in querying that have occurred over the last couple of years. First, we're seeing that users are having longer conversations. In fact, query strings on the Assistant are about 20% longer than similar queries on search. Second, they're more conversational. They're 200 times more conversational than search. So queries are going from weather 94043 to something like, do I need an umbrella today? Like you might ask a friend, a family member, or even a real-life assistant. And third, queries are action-oriented. It's 40 times more action-oriented than search. So users aren't just searching for information, but they're actually looking to get things done. They're finding that restaurant for Friday night, and they're booking that dinner reservation. And the evolution of the query is due to a couple things happening simultaneously. So first, we're seeing that technology is improving. Natural language processing and understanding improvements have actually decreased the word error rate, which is a key metric for speech recognition. It's now better than what humans can understand. Simultaneously, the number of assistant-ready devices has soared. So it's turned this new way of computing into an ambient one. It's always there when we need it, no matter what environment we're in or what device we're on. It's magical, but it poses a really new challenge for all of us, which is how do we reach the right user with the right experience in the right moment all at the same time? So let's think through a pretty typical day. We'll talk about some of the touch points where the assistant might be helpful. So first, you wake up. Good start. Now, if you're anything like me, you really would love to keep your eyes shut for that extra 20 seconds. But you also need to kickstart your day and find out where you need to be and when. Well, the assistant can help with that. Now you're waiting for the subway. You're in a crowded, loud station. You have a couple of moments of idle time before that train comes to maybe pre-order your cup of coffee or buy your friend that birthday gift you've been meaning to send them. The assistant on your mobile or your watch can help in those moments as well. And finally, you're sitting on the couch. It's the end of a long day. Your laptop or your mobile phone are probably not too far away, but neither is your Google Home. It's there to help you. So across these moments and more, Google is handling the orchestration that's required to deliver that personalized experience for the user with the context-appropriate content. So you as the developer don't have to worry about which experience, which device, which manner. You can just leave that to us. So what does this mean for the developer? Well, you have more ways than ever to be there for your user. You can reach users across the globe in over 19 languages, across 80 countries, on over 1 billion devices, today with over 1 million actions. But more than that, it's actually easier than it's ever been. And this is something we're all really excited about. I know we're all balancing far too many projects for the numbers of hours in a day. So today we're going to talk about how you can get started if you have an hour, a week, or even an entire quarter to build for the assistant. We'll talk about how to use existing ecosystems, as well as how to build net new for the assistant. And we'll focus on 4 major pillars. So first, we'll talk about how to use your existing content. This leverages what you're already doing in search. So web developers, we're going to be looking at you for this one. Second, we'll talk about how to extend your existing Android investments. Leverage the continued investments you're making in your mobile apps. And app developers, I heard you before, so you're going to want to pay attention to that section. Third, we'll talk about how to build net new for the assistant. So if you're an innovator in the conversational space, we will share how to get started. And finally, hardware developers, saw a few hands go up before, where if you're looking to control your existing device cloud, our smart home section will appeal to all of you. Within each section, we'll talk about what it is and how to get started. But before we do, Dan is going to tee up a very sweet example that we will use throughout the rest of our presentation.
So, a single unifying example that shows all the different ways you can use Google Assistant. Now, this gets me thinking about 2 things. One, I love s'mores. I have a sweet tooth, and I'm also an engineer here in Silicon Valley, home of tech startups of all kinds and the tech hub of the world. So how can I combine my love of s'mores and my love of technology? Talking it over with my colleagues, Brad and Naomi, we thought of the idea of using a fictional example company that you, as a developer, can show all of the different ways that Assistant can help you and your company with things like building a global brand through Google Assistant, increasing your global sales, customer growth and acquisition, and even things like user re-engagement, like the very important metric of daily active users. And so the first pillar that we have is how you can leverage your existing content with Google Assistant.
So, like many of your companies, Smores has a lot of existing content that's ready for the assistant. They have a website, they have a podcast, and of course they have recipes so that we can all understand how to make that perfect s'more at our next bonfire. Now, also just like you, they spend a great deal of time optimizing their site for search. So we're going to talk about how they, and of course how you, can extend existing efforts and optimizations to the Google Assistant. Now, Google's presented ways to optimize your content for search since the 90s. We work hard to understand the content of a page, but we also take explicit cues from developers who share details about their site via structured data. Structured data is a standardized format for providing information about a web page and classifying that page content. For example, on a recipe page, you can disambiguate the ingredients from the cooking time, the temperature, the calories, and so on. And because of this markup, we can provide users with richer content on the search results page, answers to questions, and a whole lot more. And this brings Google search beyond just 10 blue links. And over the last year, we've been hard at work to enhance the Google search experience and enable developers to extend their content from search to other Google properties like the Assistant. So, for sites with content in popular areas like news, podcasts, and recipes, we have structured data markup to make your content available in richer ways on search. And those same optimizations that you make for search will also help your content be both discoverable and accessible on the Assistant. And it's just standard RSS. You've seen this before. And that's the approach we've always taken. We're using industry standards and ensuring those optimizations are ready for search and the Assistant too. And I'm so excited now to announce 2 brand new programs that we're adding, how-to guides and FAQs. So the additional optimizations that you make for search will soon yield a richer experience and an automatic extension to the Assistant. Let's dive into each. So how-to guides enable developers to mark up their how-to content and make it discoverable to users on both search and the Assistant. What displays is then a step-by-step guide to the user on anything from how to change a flat tire to, of course, how to make that perfect s'more. So on the left here, you can see a nice image-based preview of the how-to content on Smore site. It allows the user to engage with your brand further upstream in their journey, and it differentiates your results on the search results page. And if you don't have images, don't worry. We have a text-based version of this feature as well. Now on the right, you can see the full guided experience on a Home Hub device. Again, all powered by the same markup on Smores site. Now, the best thing about creating a step-by-step guide is that you actually don't have to be technical to do so. Now, I know we're at I/O, and I/O is a developers conference, but if you have 1 hour to dip your toes in the Assistant pool, and you don't have a developer who can devote the time to adding the markup, don't worry. We have ways for you to get your content onto the Assistant, even as simply as using a spreadsheet. So now, you can combine your existing YouTube how-to videos and a simple spreadsheet in the Actions console to get a guided how-to experience across many Assistant-enabled devices. So Smores.com now has 2 ways for how they can get their step-by-step guides on how to make that perfect s'more onto the Assistant. If they have a developer with some extra time, they can add the markup, or they can use a simple spreadsheet to extend their existing YouTube content. Now we're going to switch gears a little. I want you to think about how many times you turn to search for answers to questions. Maybe some of you are even doing it right now. That's OK. Maybe you're trying to find out the return policy to your favorite store, or if there's a delivery fee for your favorite restaurant, blackout dates for travel. The list truly goes on and on. Well, our FAQs markup enables a rich answer experience on search, giving users answers directly from your customer service page. So the same optimization will then enable queries on the Assistant to be answered by the markup you already did. And it's so easy to implement. So when a user queries something like, what's S'more's delivery fee on the Assistant, Google will soon be able to render the answer from that same markup on your customer service page. And here are some developers that have already gotten started with FAQs and how-to guides. And we'd love to have you join us tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning to learn more about how to enhance your search and Assistant's presence with structured data. Of course, the talk will also be live streamed, or you can catch it later on YouTube. So, as you've seen, there are 3 main ways that Smores.com and you can leverage existing content. First, you can ensure the hygiene of your structured data markup for podcast, news, or recipe content. You can add the new FAQs markup to your customer service site, or you can use a new template to bring your content to the Google Assistant. We're so excited about the ways that we're making it even easier for developers to extend existing content from search to the Assistant. But we're also making it even easier for companies to engage their existing ecosystems like Android. So let's talk more about App Actions.
All right, thank you. How about that sun, huh? You're enjoying the sun in Shoreline? I can't see anything without these, so I'm going to go with this. So, where are my Android developers again? Android developers? Yes. Just like many of you, the Smores company has a popular Android app. They want to make it as easy to order s'mores as it is to enjoy them. But just like many of you, they face the high cost of driving app installs coupled with the reality that users are using fewer and fewer apps each year. The sea of icons found on many users' phones might be a contributing factor. It's hard for users to remember your icon, much less find it. What we need is a new way for users to find and launch your Android apps, one that's focused more on what users are trying to do rather than what icon to click. Last year at I/O, we gave a sneak peek at App Actions, a simple way for Android developers to connect their apps with the helpfulness of the Assistant. And with the Google Assistant on nearly 1 billion Android phones, App Actions is a great way for you to reconnect with your users. App Actions uses Google's natural language understanding technology, so it's easy for users to naturally invoke your application. And finally, App Actions doesn't just launch your app, it launches deeply into your app, so we fast forward users right to the good parts. Now, to help you understand this concept, let's walk through an example, of course, using our S'mores app. Let's first take a look at how this looks the traditional way. So first, of course, I find the S'mores app in the sea of icons. Does anybody see it? Next, I select the cracker. Okay, that makes sense. And then I have to choose a marshmallow. All right. And then I get to pick the chocolate and, of course, a toast level. Okay, I've got to say how many I want. That's important, too. And then finally, I can review my order and confirm. Now, that's a long intent to fulfillment chain. It's a long way from I first had the desire for a warm, delicious s'mores before I got it successfully ordered. And that means there's opportunities for drop-off all along the way. Now let's take a look at what this looks like once S'mores has enabled App Actions. First, you'll notice I get to naturally invoke the app with just my voice. I can say, order 1 milk chocolate from S'mores, and then immediately we jump right to the good part of this application, confirming that order. Notice we got all the parameters correct, and then we just confirm and we're done. We're ordered. It's a short path from when I had the intent for the warm, delicious s'more before I got it ordered. But of course, we didn't build App Actions just for building s'mores. We had a few partners that have already started to look at App Actions. So for example, I can say to the Assistant, order a maple glazed donut from Dunkin' Donuts. Of course, I might need to work that off, so I can say, start a run on Nike Run Club. And I might want to settle that bet from last night by saying, send $50 to Naomi on PayPal. So let's take a look, though, at what enables this technology. What's going on under the covers here? Foundationally, at Google, we connect users that express some intent with third parties that can fulfill it. And App Actions is the mechanism that you as app developers can use to indicate what your Android app can do. Each app action, each built-in intent represents an atomic thing a user could want to do, including all possible arguments for that. So you just need to implement that built-in intent and handle the arguments that we pass to you. The cool thing about built-in intents is that they model all the different ways users might express an intent. For example, these are the ways users could say, start an exercise. Notice as an app developer, you don't need to handle all of this complexity with this different kinds of grammar. We handle all of that for you. You just implement the built-in intent. So speaking of which, let's take a look at how it looks for you as a developer to implement that. Well, the first thing you'll do is open up Android Studio and add an Actions XML file. You notice on that second line there, it's order menu item. That is the name of the built-in intent that we have implemented for our S'mores app. And then in that fulfillment line, you'll notice a custom schema URL. So you could, of course, use an HTTPS URL as well. This just tells us where in the application we should fast forward into. And then you'll notice we map the arguments there. So the menu item.name is the argument name from the built-in intent. And then notice our URL is expecting the item name. And then finally, at the bottom there, we're giving some inventory. What are the kinds of things users might say for this application? And just for brevity, I put the usual. Now we just need to handle that in our onCreate function. So very simply, we parse that item name parameter out of the URL. We check to see if it's that identifier, and if so, we just pre-populate the UI with exactly what we want. This is a very simple integration that you can get done very quickly on the assistant. So the good news is that you can build and test with app actions starting today. We're releasing built-in intents in these 4 categories in finance, food ordering, ride sharing, and fitness. So if your app is in one of those categories, you can build and test right now. And of course, the team is already working on the next set of intents. So if you have ideas or thoughts on what intent would be great, we'd love it if you gave us feedback at this URL. But there's one more thing. App actions and built-in intents also enable slices. Slices is a way that you, as an Android developer, can create a declarative version of part of your application and embed it into Google Surfaces like the Google Assistant. So in this case, we're implementing the track order built-in intent. And then you can see in line there, that's our Android slice showing up right in line in the Google Assistant, making it quick and easy for users to get that information and then launch into your app if they need more advanced functionality. So what did we see here? You can enable users to invoke your app with just their voice with app actions. There's a simple integration model. All you need to do is map the intents in your app to a common set of built-in intents. And then the good news is you can build and test starting today with more intents coming soon.
So we've seen how you can leverage your existing content with Google Assistant. We've seen how you can integrate your Android applications with Google Assistant. Now I want to talk about conversation, specifically conversation actions. That is, how you can build new custom experiences for the Google Assistant. So why are conversation actions so important? Well, for one, it's a way that you can natively control the device's capabilities. So if the device has a screen, show an image. If the device supports touch, show a suggestion chip that they can tap. It's a way that you can increase your brand awareness through things like custom dialogue and agent personas. You can grow your user re-engagement through well-crafted conversation design and things like action links. And furthermore, you can drive habits and interactions with features like routines, daily updates, and push notifications. Now, what exactly are conversation actions? It's the idea that you as a developer have full control over the dialogue, the back and forth of what's said. This is distinctly different than that of app actions or content actions, or even smart home actions, where you have some type of fixed markup, or maybe you're using a built-in intent, something that somehow defines already what the material that you're trying to access. Google Assistant takes that fixed markup and ingests it, applies its own natural language understanding, and matches what the user says automatically to the access of that material. With conversation actions, that's flipped. You as a developer define custom intents. You define the types of phrases that a user might say to match that custom intent. You even define the information that you want extracted out of what they say for those same intents. So with conversation actions, we need some type of tool that can help us do this. And that is Dialogflow. Out of the box, it provides two key elements: the concept of user intent, or what the user actually wants, and the concept of entity extraction, the way that you glean information out of what they say. Let's dive in a little bit with a small example. So if we take s'mores, I would like a large s'more with dark chocolate, and I want it to go. Dialogflow can take this phrase as a whole and match it to the user intent that they want to purchase a snack of some kind. Now you see here a few words highlighted in the sentence. Large. Dialogflow can understand that they want a large snack. S'more, the type of snack. Dark chocolate, the topping of that snack. And they want it to go rather than for delivery or for there. So when we take a look at this at a sequence of dialogue and expand it a little bit more, the user might say something like, "Hey G, talk to S'mores. S'mores in this case is the invocation name of your action. Google Assistant takes that audio, transcribes it into text, applies its natural language understanding, and invokes your conversation action. From that point forward, it's between you as a developer and Dialogflow that's controlling the responses back to the user. And so, let's take a look at a live demo. Here, I have Dialogflow and a few intents that I've already defined. I have a Smore shop where you can order a snack. You can order whatever you last ordered, a gift card. And so let's take a deeper look into ordering a snack. When I look at this, I have a few things. I have my contexts. I have my training phrases that I've already supplied. These are the phrases that I think as a developer the user might say that matches the intent of them wanting to purchase a snack of some kind. If I scroll down, I can see the types of parameters and the relating entities of those parameters. Specifically things like delivery pickup, the type of snack, the size of the snack, toppings, etc. Now, if I scroll down further, you'll see the responses that I've created as well that reference the entities that I've also defined. If I scroll down even further, you'll see the fulfillment. If I wanted to have a custom fulfillment, I can have a standard webhook call for this type of intent. Now, let's look at an example here. If I say one large s'more with milk chocolate, you'll notice instantly, without additional input from me, Dialogflow has highlighted several key elements within this phrase. Large. It knows that's the size of the snack that I want. S'more, the type of snack. Chocolate type of milk. So there you go. That's pretty powerful stuff. Now let's take a look at it in the phrase of a full conversation. If I say, I would like to order a large s'more with dark chocolate. Instantly, it gets the information. It has the various contexts. It matched it to the intent of ordering a snack. And we scroll down, it also still has the various entities and parameters that it's extracted. Now, the default response here is that I've defined a required parameter of delivery or pickup. And so it's asking me, will it be for delivery or pickup? I respond, delivery. And there you go. It understands you've ordered a large dark chocolate s'more and you want it for delivery. There you go. So this is powerful stuff for Google Assistant. Now let's go back to the slides. Here, what we have is a way to build conversation. Now, Google Assistant supports a huge array of devices and surfaces, and we want to be able to scale across them all. Different devices support different capabilities. A smart speaker is voice only. A car, voice forward. It has a screen, but you still want to have voice control. To intermodal, like your cell phone. To maybe your smart watch, which is screen only. We need some type of feature that can fully utilize the screen. And in the case of S'mores, they want to be able to build a rich game, something that's voice first, custom full screen visuals. They want to build a turn-based battle system that's multiple surface and supports all these different kinds. So today, I'm happy to announce the brand new API called Interactive Canvas. This is an API that enables pixel-level control of rendering any HTML, any CSS, and JavaScript. Let me reiterate, that is a full web view running on the device. It supports full-screen visuals, animations, even video playback. Now, it wouldn't be Google I/O without another live demo. Let's take a look here. What I have is a hub, and for this demo, I'm going to need some audience interaction here. I'm going to be playing a trivia game, and it's going to be a really hard question. So I need you guys all to scream out as loud as you can the answer to this question. Hey Google, play HQ University.
All right, here's HQ University.
Oh, hi there. Scott Rogowski here. Recognize this voice? It's the voice of HQ Trivia. Yes, that's me, the host, Quiz Khalifa. Host Malone, the Trap Trebek. And I'm here to welcome you to HQ University. You've been accepted into this elite program to help smarten up and sharpen up your trivia skills to help you win HQ. The rules are very simple. My assistant Alfredo is going to ask you a series of questions that, just like HQ, start easy and get harder. You will respond with the answer you think is correct, and the HQ universe will reward you. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's get this show on the road, baby. Alfredo, hit him with Cumero numero uno.
Ready. Question 1. If you put on a hoodie, what type of clothing are you wearing? Your choices are cloak, sweatshirt, or cape.
So what's the answer? Sweatshirt?
Yeah, baby, you did it.
We did it. Awesome.
Next.
So that is Interactive Canvas, a way that you can build full-screen visuals and custom animations. So how does something like this work? Well, first off, we have to start with a regular conversation action, where the user says something to the device. That, in turn, goes to the actions on Google platform, in turn to Dialogflow, and finally, your custom fulfillment. Your fulfillment supplies a certain type of response. In this case, it needs to supply a rich response. When we add the web application, the canvas, it supplies an immersive response which tells the Google Home to load the web app. Your web application, in turn, has a specific JavaScript library called the Interactive Canvas API. Let's look at some code for this. When we look at this, this is the custom fulfillment. You can see here I have the default welcome intent that's supplying a new immersive response that supplies the URL of the web application and the initial state of that web application. What does this look like on the web application side? Well, when we see this, there's two main elements that you need to include. There's the CSS style sheet. This supplies the specific padding for the header on the devices and things like that. And then the actual JavaScript library. This library itself manages the state of your web application with the state of the conversation so that you can control both in unison. So, some key takeaways around conversation is that Dialogflow is the tool for developers to where you can build custom conversations. You control the back and forth of your dialogue. And two, we've announced the Interactive Canvas API, the pixel-level control over the display for games, where you can run any HTML, any CSS, and any JavaScript. Now, I want to switch it up a little bit, talk about smart home, the ability for you to control any hardware with your voice. Now, traditionally, smart home has been all about cloud-to-cloud communication. So when I turn on my Philips Hue light bulbs, what's actually happening is that Google Assistant takes in the audio, transcribes it into text, applies natural language understanding, and sends a specific response to Philips Hue's servers. Philips Hue, in turn, controls the light bulb. And so now, I'm glad to announce a new API, the Local Home SDK. This provides new local control over your devices with post-assistance latency of under 200 milliseconds. Supports local discovery protocols like UDP broadcast, MDNS, UPnP. For actually controlling devices, UDP, TCP, and HTTPS. Now, with Smart Home, there's device types and device traits. It supports all of them out of the box, with the exception of two-factor authentication. Now, my favorite part is that it's come as you are, meaning you don't need to change the embedded code on your device for the messages. What's actually happening is that you develop a JavaScript application that runs on the home device. That's pretty awesome. So let's take a look at how this works. When the user says something like, "Hey G, turn on the lights," again, that audio is sent up to Google Assistant, transcribes it into text, applies natural language understanding. Google Assistant creates an execution intent and sends this intent, this structured JSON response, down to the Google Home, where the Home is running your JavaScript application. Your JavaScript application, in turn, understands the intent of trying to turn it on with the exact device ID, things like that, and constructs the specific message that your device supports. In turn, turning on the light. So, I want to show more traits and more types today. We're always adding more device types that we support with the Smart Home APIs, and today we're releasing even more with things like open close, start stop with zones, lock unlock, even devices and types like your door, boiler, garage door. Now, again, we're adding these all the time, and today we're releasing a huge number more. So I want to show now how Smores can use Smart Home. So what I have here is a toaster oven. Some of you might have already seen this up here and wondering what it's used for. So I have a toaster oven here with inside of it some s'mores that I want to eat and I want to toast perfectly. I also have a Google AIY Vision Kit, which inside of that is a Raspberry Pi Zero. And I'm using this to control the power to this toaster oven. And so let's take a look. Hey Google, turn on my s'mores toaster.
Okay, turning S'more's toaster on.
Awesome. So there you have it. A smart home device that's being controlled via voice with Google Assistant. And so let's recap some key takeaways. One, we announced the Local Home SDK, where you can control real-world devices using local Wi-Fi with your voice. And second, we've announced a huge number of new traits and device types. These are available today that you can use in your own devices. And so, what to do next?
All right, so we have covered a lot today, but we are so excited to share with you all of the ways you can get started building your first action. So to quickly recap, you can use your web content and leverage what you're already doing in search. You can use app actions and leverage the Android ecosystem you're already participating in. You can build a custom experience for the assistant by building a conversation action, or you can extend your hardware and build smart home actions to control the devices around your home. But this is just the beginning. There are 12 more sessions this week that will dive into topics we only had a chance to introduce in our time together today. So these additional talks will be geared toward Android app developers, web developers, hardware developers, or anyone who just wants to learn how to build with conversation or some insights around this new ecosystem. So please check them out live, watch them on the live stream, or of course, tune in later on YouTube. Now, for those of you here with us this week, we have a sandbox out back, office hours, and a code lab. Now, I think I heard our toasters ready, so it's time for us to go enjoy some s'mores. But Visit our developer site, talk to us on Twitter, and we can't wait to see you the rest of I/O. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Bye-bye. Thank you.